Welcome to the Page by Page Book Club. I'm your host, Paige Imprint, and I bring you weekly book club meetings wherever you get your podcasts. I have a bit of a different one here for you guys today, which I am so excited about. I feel like every time I mention this topic, people are aghast. Their jaws on the floor, they are shocked and awed. And so I am here to talk to you guys today about two things that are pretty interconnected for me, but those two things are, one, I don't have an internal monologue, and two, I have aphantasia, meaning I cannot visualize anything in my head. So, in other words, I do not talk to myself in my own head. I do not hear my own voice in my head. I do not hear my own voice when I'm reading. And on the flip side, when I close my eyes, there's nothing. So, I figured we could talk about how that impacts me as a reader because, well, it just greatly impacts my reading experience, as you can imagine. Every time I talk about this online, every time I bring it up, people are flabbergasted. And I feel like rightfully so. So I went ahead and I asked you guys on my stories if you have any questions about what life is like as someone with aphantasia and without an internal monologue as a reader, and I just figured I could chat with you guys about this. I thought it would be a fun little topic to chat about together. So, with that being said, I figured I could give you all some context before we super dove into this, just about kind of what it's like up there, if you will. So, one of the questions was like, what happens when someone says, picture this? Picture this, for me, is more of a broad term. It's more of just a, like, walk with me type situation. I am very, very rarely, or I can't, quote unquote, picture this. So, let's start with the aphantasia of it all, the lack of the ability to visualize. When I close my eyes, it's not black, it is nothing. Imagine trying to see out of the back of your own head. Like, what do you see? Nothing. That's what's going on up here. It's not black. It's nothing. It's silence. It is calm. You may be thinking to yourself, do you fall to sleep like so fast? Yes, I fall asleep crazy fast. So, it is not black. It is not dark. It is nothing. The way I explain things to people is I'm always thinking, but it's not in terms of pictures or like auditory. Two ways I try to explain it to people is one, like the wind, you can feel it, but you can't see it. Or like smells. You can smell it, but you can't see it. It's just, you know it's there. You know it's happening. So I have thoughts. That reminds me of back in my corporate days. A lady was like, that makes sense that you never think. First of all, so insulting. I do think. It's just not in words or pictures. It just is. That's the only way I can explain it. I know some of y'all are listening with aphantasia. I hope I'm not diagnosing anyone. If I am, hello. Welcome to the club. But to the people who get it, they get it. It's just like, it just is. It exists in there. My best friend Torianne says it's kind of like I'm just running code all the time in my brain. Perhaps. Like, I'm always thinking. I just don't hear myself or other people's voices. And I'm not like watching scenarios play out in my head. It just is. So that's one. So I can kind of like turn it off quite quickly or escape into the nothingness. That's why I fall asleep so easily. I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime, any day. Don't you worry. I will fall asleep. So I think people find that quite interesting. And then in terms of the lack of internal monologue in my head, people are like, so is it just silent? Yes. It's just silent. It's just like this. Yeah. Like I'm thinking, but it's just not in words. So I'm not hearing myself. If I have a song stuck in my head, I have to sing it out loud. Like I can't just have it stuck like inside because I can't get it out. Like it's very interesting. So that's just kind of like how it is, if you will. So yes, I figured we could, now that we have like a basic understanding, dive into y'all's questions, I'm thinking. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just dive straight into all your questions. Oh no, I lost my little archive. In the meantime, I just got back from Vegas. It was a hoot and a half. I was there with the one, the only K Cove, and we were at, oh gosh, Book Lovers Con? Question mark? We stayed at the Flamingo. It was very classic Vegas. Classic. So, had a great time there. All right, well, let's just start from the top. I think y'all are going to find very quickly. I think you're going to get the gist quite quickly. So, bear with me. But the very, very first question was, so can you picture in your mind the scenes in books? No, babe. No, I cannot. No, I cannot picture in my mind the scenes in books. I know a lot of people experience reading like a movie playing out in your mind. And to that I say, I love that for you. That is not my truth. I just read the stories and what's happening exists in my mind. It's just like, well, yes, he walked into the kitchen. He walked into the kitchen is just, he walked into the kitchen. I don't visually watch him walk into the kitchen. So, yeah, there's none of that going on. I don't watch things as a movie in my mind. There's a question that's going to hit on this later, so I'm going to wait for it, but we'll get on that. Another question from my dear friend Olivia says, do audiobook narrators ever become the voice of specific characters for you? Also, no, because, well, so I love audiobooks. I'm going to start there. And the next comment is actually about that. I love audiobooks. Audiobooks help me stay locked in so much because even though I don't have an internal monologue, when I'm reading, if I'm not super locked in, my mind will wander a little bit. Again, it's not that I'm not thinking, it's just I'm not thinking in words per se. It just is. So sometimes my mind will wander, so I do love an audiobook, but in terms of narrators and voices, there are no voices in my head. There are no, I can't, another example of all of this is if a sketch artist came to me today and was like, oh no, your husband or your mom or your dad or your sister, we need a sketch of them expeditiously. I have bad news for you. I can't do it. I know he's the most handsome man in the world to me. I know he has blue eyes. I know he has brown hair, but I couldn't conjure him up in my brain. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. So similarly with voices, I suppose sometimes I can tell if someone's voice fits the character well. I'll be like, yeah, that guy's that's a good XYZ MMC. However, I am not, thinking about their voices later. I couldn't conjure that up from my brain. So, pretty interesting in my opinion. I don't know. Is this interesting? I hope so. Another dear friend of mine, Britt, said she has no questions, but she's the exact same, and immersive reading changed it for her because she's the same. Yes, queen. Immersive reading is everything. Like I just said, getting to eyeball read and listen at the same time gives me what I would assume the closest experience that someone with an internal monologue or could watch a movie in their head could have. It does give it an extra element to it. It keeps my mind from wandering, keeps me locked into the story, makes it a little bit more emotional because, again, I'm not hearing it in my own head, so I'm not really getting that, the big third act. I'm a crier when I read, and I do feel feelings, but I'm not, watching them break up, So at least with audiobooks, it gives me a bit of that feeling into it. So that's kind of fun. Let's see. Someone says that's so interesting. It's actually surprising how much you love reading. That was the question I was waiting for. I suppose so. I suppose it is surprising that I enjoy reading because I would assume the joy for many people is getting to watch that story, but I know nothing different, it's not like I've had it once and now I don't. So it's not like I'm missing out on anything for me. Does that make sense? So just because I can't visualize anything or I don't have an internal monologue, I'm not missing out on anything because I don't know any different. I suppose watching TV versus this is a very different experience, but I actually don't like watching TV. So I think there's still a huge level of escapism for me when it comes to reading, and almost an opportunity, if I can get locked in, to turn off my brain. And so I think that that's why I love it so much. I also talk a lot about reading for me more than anything is an opportunity for empathy, specifically for points of view outside of my own, an opportunity to understand someone's mind, someone's thoughts, someone's actions who are different than me. And that's kind of where I find the joy in my reading and my learning in the reading. So maybe it's that reading is less of entertainment per se in the way that TV and movies are, and more of a like growing experience. I don't know, but that was the one I was waiting for that I alluded to in that first question. It is probably slightly odd to people that I love it so much, but I love it for you that that's your experience too. So, like it's just, I don't know any different. So I'm not sad about it per se. Do I think it would be cool? Yes. There's another question coming up that I'm excited to dive into, but we'll get into it when it comes. Let's see. Next question. From another Brit. If you've seen character art prior to reading, do you picture that while you're reading? No. Because I can't picture anything. So there's no picturing to be had for me. However, way back when I was reading a little bit slower, I would always desperately try to find stuff on Pinterest before Pinterest was like a true AI wasteland. I would try to find character inspo and pins for the books I was reading to try to just get some sort of visual understanding of the person. So now that we're really, really in the age of character art, I do like going and looking at the character art so that I can see outside of my mind what the person looks like and just get to experience that in some capacity. However, once the character's out of sight, it is out of mind. I can't really recall anything further. So, in books, for that matter, if there's a long, descriptive paragraph, it's not for me, I'm not the one. But I do really appreciate and love character art, especially because Pinterest has kind of taken that turn. So, though I don't visualize the characters in my mind after seeing character art, I still deeply appreciate it because I can still go to the page, look at it, gain a bit of an understanding that I didn't have before. So hopefully that answers your question to an extent. My dearest darlingest Lena Hendricks just says, "What?" Mind explode emoji. I didn't know you didn't know that, Queen. I hope you're here. Hello. Love, Lena. And yeah, this is my truth. Sometimes when my clients find this out, they're like, what on earth? And actually, oddly enough, one of my favorite things to do with my clients as a COO is commission art. I love commissioning art. I love posing people. I love doing all of that. And that is always a shock to people. And I think I'm pretty strong at it. And so I still have thoughts. I still have concepts in my brain. It's different. It's just my truth. So yeah, that's kind of an odd random thing. So Hello 30 Pages says, "This always intrigues me. What voice do you hear when you read?" None. I hear no voice. I just see the words. Like I see the words and they're in there. There's no voice. I don't hear it in my head. I assume when people say, like, I hear my voice in my head, it's like as if it's being read aloud to you, just like inside of there. That meme, I know audio listeners aren't going to know what I'm talking about, but it's that student and he's at the desk and he's just scooping the air in front of the textbook into his brain. That's kind of just how I read. Like, it's like scooping the words from the page into my brain. That's my life. That's my life. So it just goes from the page and it goes in there. An interesting little tidbit, by the way, is that I feel like most of my thinking lives in the back of my head. Like it's not in the, like where my forehead or even like, it's all from behind my ears back. I can't quite explain that. That might be a little wee-woo for some people, but there's nothing, like it's all nothingness from there, but I feel like most of my thinking is done behind my ears. I can't explain that. Hopefully you're with me. Thoughts and prayers. My dearest darlingest best friend and first client, Molly Goins, says, her high imagery and full cast of voices, shaking emoji, you with none. And it's true. that's just us. That's who we are as people. It's so funny. Torian's the same way. Like, just the people I'm close to don't have this experience. So it is very, very... I mean, it's not a unique experience, but it is always funny that most people don't experience this. Did I learn this, or has it always been this way? Great question. I actually called my mom about this when I posted this story. I don't remember. What I can say is, growing up, I do remember playing out scenarios in my head, but I can't ever remember seeing them in my head. Like, again, I think I play out scenarios in my head all the time. My job is business strategy. I play things out from top to bottom regularly, but it's not in movie format. And I don't know how to explain it to people who don't experience it, but I just think it. So, great question. I don't remember if this was a part of my childhood or if it happened later in life, but I was made aware of this when I met my husband, because he was like, well, I was talking to myself. And I was like, I didn't hear you talking to yourself. And he's like, why? What? Because we were in the same room. He's like, well, I was just talking to myself. And I was like, no, you weren't. He was like, yes, I was. And he was like, I was just talking to myself in my head. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, like my voice in my head. Like, I was just talking in my head. I was like, no, what are you talking about? You're crazy. He was like, you're crazy. And so that's how I found out. And then from there, I started Googling, and internal monologue and aphantasia are different. Some people have one, some people have the other. And aphantasia is actually scale. So a lot of people will test their aphantasia, like close your eyes and try to imagine like a purple elephant balancing an apple on its trunk. And apparently, some of y'all are just seeing that crystal clear in 4K up there. I think if I really, 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 really tried, like it actually makes me nauseous, I could conjure up something, but for the most part, it's just vibes. It's, again, nothingness. Imagine trying to see out of the back of your own head. That's what it is. So, fun. So I learned about it later in life, maybe around 20, but from what I can gather, I've always been this way. And I've talked out loud to myself a lot. Like, I do talk out loud, but that's the only way I can hear myself. So especially if I'm having like a really hard time, or when I threw my back out the other week, to encourage myself to even put one foot in front of the other out loud. I was like, okay, you can do this. Stay strong. It's just one more step. And my husband was laughing at me, but I couldn't cheerlead myself in my head. So that was interesting. Someone asks, are audiobooks better? Do I have images in my mind with an audiobook versus reading? So, do audiobooks give me a different experience than reading? No, other than at least I hear something with audiobooks. Whereas it's just, again, that child scooping information into his brain. And the other really, really interesting thing about this, and people who know me know, once I've read a book, like, even the very, very first books I've read, now that I'm coming up on 350 or 400 or whatever I'm at now, like, I can tell you bar for bar everything that happened. Like, all of it. Top to bottom. In a frightening way. I can pull the tropes out. Like, I got it all. It's all up there. I'm not missing anything. It's just, yeah. This whole episode is giving a whole new meaning if you listen regularly to me saying I come to these episodes and I'm doing it off the top of the dome. I really, really am. Ooh, the same person. Great questions. Wow. Great questions. Are any authors better for me? Like, where I feel it's more descriptive or I get a better image. So I'm never going to get a better image, or no description's going to help me at all, I would say. However, I do deeply appreciate beautiful prose for this reason, I think, because there's just, I really get to experience the true writing of it all. And plots are amazing, characters are amazing, truly, but when prose are very well written, I love a metaphor, I love a simile, I love a literary device, I love getting to pick up on those things. They always just, they make me so happy. I genuinely love them. And then people who write feelings exceptionally well, I always appreciate. So, the feeling of found family, or heartbreak, or curiosity, like when feelings are very well written in a show don't tell kind of way, I always really, really appreciate that. So I think Tara DeWitt is a great example of just like an author I love to read, who has very beautiful prose and uses a literary device like a weapon. Like, really, really impressed constantly when I do read her as someone who can't visualize. So that's an example there. Hopefully that makes sense for y'all. Da-da-da. Oops, someone else says same. No pictures, no monologue. Twins. Little twin emoji of the dancers. Love this for us. Oh, someone else says same and no one believes me. Look at us. We are building a community here. Someone said, I think that I just diagnosed them. So sorry, Queen. My bad. My friend Rachel says, I love your beautiful brain. That's very kind. It's odd. I have had very, very unkind things said to me because of this. Kind of like I alluded to, especially in corporate, whenever I would share about this at my corporate job, people would be like, well, you just don't think, or you're not intelligent. And I'm not claiming that I'm the most intelligent person in the world by any means. Like, truly, truly, that's not what I'm saying. But I think I have good ideas. I think I'm proud of the person I am. Ooh, don't get emotional. This was a random moment to get... No, it's not a random moment to get emotional. It makes sense why I'm getting emotional, but I've worked very hard on the person I am, and I just experience life in a different way. Like, I think just as much as I try to understand what it's like for you to visualize something, like, that's how, like, think about how you're trying to empathize with me right now. Maybe if this is not an experience that comes naturally to you, I just as deeply don't understand what it's like for you. Does that make sense? So, like, just as much as you're like, oh my God, what is it like up there with nothing? I'm thinking, oh my God, what is it like up there with all the voices and the constant, etc. So, like, I think the most hurtful thing, if you have someone in your life with aphantasia or a lack of internal monologue, is implying that they're unintelligent for that reason. Everyone in my corner of the internet these days would never. I feel like y'all are so kind and so lovely and empathetic. But yeah, it was shocking in the corporate world when I would bring this up, how unkind people would be over it. Like, I'll never forget. I heard a woman I worked with at an office talking about it when she thought I wasn't paying attention. And it was really hurtful. So, I don't know. Not to unload on y'all emotionally, but yeah. So thank you for saying that, Rachel. I love my brain too. It's taken me a long time to get here. Highly recommend a therapist. Highly recommend spending time with yourself and investing in a relationship with yourself and getting to a place that you can be kind to yourself. I will say, I know sometimes the internal monologue makes imposter syndrome, I can imagine, or self-doubt or being unkind to yourself easier, I would assume. And I still have, like, unkind thoughts. Again, they're just not, I don't hear them. So I can assume, like, hearing them makes it a million times worse. I always suggest to people, replace every unkind thought with 2 kind ones and do it intentionally over and over again. That's how I built a safe space in my brain. Really off the rails. That's not bookish, but hopefully that advice can help someone out there. So, thank you, Rachel. You're very kind. What was it like growing up when I realized I didn't have an internal monologue? Yeah, I will never forget my husband saying, well, I was talking to myself, and I was like, no, you were not. And he was like, oh, yeah, I was. And I was like, oh my gosh. Crazy town. It's crazy, crazy. I did daydream. I did have imaginary friends. So, I don't know. It was odd. How did I enjoy reading without the visualizations? Ooh, do I think this makes reading faster? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So I have friends who, one, say that their internal monologue can't read as fast as, like, they could without it. So they're, like, they have to hear the words. I don't have to hear the words, so I can fly. It's not skimming. I just don't need to hear them in my head. So I can move faster than I suppose it would take for someone to read them. Like, a lot of y'all, please don't come for me, but without the internal monologue, I can do an immersive read at like 3.5 times speed, probably faster, but it doesn't go any higher than 3.5 times speed. So when I'm reading, I'm zooming because I don't need to visualize it. I had another friend who was like, sometimes I'll read something and visualize it wrong and have to go back, reset, and redo it again. And I was like, oh babe, that's got to be a lot. That has to be kind of stressful. You're like a director up there. So y'all who can visualize your books, while you're reading them, you're like a full-blown director. And for that, I appreciate you. So the next question kind of leads into that is, so are adaptations easier for you? Yes, absolutely. Book to TV or book to film adaptations, I can make a really smooth transition because, again, I was not a director in my own brain, which I, again, love for y'all. Has to be the most fun ever, but I have no trouble just seeing it on screen because this is the first time I'm seeing anything. This is the first time a book has been any sort of acted out experience for me. So I can definitely empathize with why book to TV, book to film adaptations could be way harder for people who have kind of perfected their idea of what that would look like in their heads. Again, I just can't do that. I don't have that. So cheers to you, because that must be really tricky. But no, I'm very, very flexible with adaptations. In fact, I love them for that reason, because it's my first chance ever at getting to actually see things. So someone asked, do I feel like it could be improved over time? I would think not. But I also personally don't feel as though it's a condition I'm living with or a detriment by any means. I just feel like it's like just a different experience, if that makes sense. So I never bring it up in a sense of I want it fixed. Like I am who I am. So that's a great, fascinating question. But again, if I try really, really hard, I can conjure up a shadow of something up there. It makes me nauseous. Like, it takes a ton of concentration. So I don't know. Like, I assume I could really work at it if I wanted to, but I love my life. I love my brain. So I don't know. I don't think I would have to tap into someone who maybe has this and would prefer something different. But I'm very pleased with everything and the way my life is. So thank you for asking. Great question. I think that's fascinating. So let's see if we have anything else missing. I would love to hear from you all if you all have this experience. I know it's all a spectrum for sure. So let's see. Do I feel like I'm missing out? Not necessarily, because again, it's always been this way and it doesn't really bother me. Do I focus more on themes, emotion, and character dynamics because I'm not visualizing the story? Yes, I do. I think it makes me an asset to the teams I'm on and the authors I'm with, because I just experience their stories differently. So I think that that's really, really fun as well. How does this affect working with authors when marketing relies so heavily on visuals? I actually think that this is one of my strongest assets, kind of similar to the way I explained character art, and I love commissioning it so much. I am able to create and tap into the feelings I felt when reading a story, and the vibes and the feelings and the energy from books, and I am able to put them into a visual format. So as opposed to relying on descriptions, I am reliant on vibes, energy, emotions, feelings to create a visual world building experience. It's funny, I actually just posted on Patreon about why world building marketing is non-negotiable for authors and how to execute that. And in many ways, I think this just makes it stronger for me, because the book has to have a very, very strong energy and vibe and setting and, again, world building on the page to be able to pull it off the page. So I think it's an asset to an extent. Great question. Ooh, same person says, do the emotional hooks, tropes, vibes matter more than the imagery? For me, absolutely. I can totally see for someone else how that wouldn't be the case, but yes, I do pay attention. I think that's why I'm a strong content puller as well, like pulling content for marketing, because I am tapping into the emotion, the feelings, the vibes, the marketable moments from the stories from that capacity. Wow, really, really great questions. Do you have any advice for authors from someone who does not visualize? I guess maybe just a reminder that not all readers visualize. If you as an author are a visual person, to just, I don't know, keep that in mind. I don't know what you could do to adjust, and I'm not asking you to. I truly, again, I love reading, obviously, more than anything. It's like everything to me, so no one is doing anything wrong. But maybe just if you are like super heavy on description, maybe try to tap into like, what does it mean to create a vibe and an energy in your stories outside of truly just flat out describing something. So that's what I would say to authors. Wow, these are really strong questions. Ooh, rapid fire. Someone said rapid fire can you questions. Okay. Can I recognize faces in my mind? No. No, I cannot. Similar to that sketch artist, like again, my poor husband, I think he's the most handsome man on the planet. He's everything to me. But if we needed a sketch for him today, we would be in bad shape. Can I replay memories visually? No, but I can replay feelings and emotions and vibes and energies. I think actually that makes me more intuitive because I pick up so much on the feeling, non-visual elements of situations. So, no, I can't replay memories visually. Actually, this is an interesting thing. We were in Kalispell, Montana for a signing, and we took a day off to go to Glacier National Park, and Torianne will tell you, I was sobbing, driving in to the park because I knew I would never be able to visualize that again. Like, I could never conjure that memory. And I cry sometimes over my own wedding because I can't go back there. So all I have are the photos, and this is a huge, massive shout out to my photographer and videographer. They were a husband and wife duo. Glenay, if you're listening, they captured my wedding day in a way that I cannot begin to put into words how grateful I am for them. So if you're listening, sorry, I'm tearing up, but like that, in many ways, those memories are like the loss of my life. So when I do get the chance to take photos, it means everything. But yeah, I do really struggle. Like in the moment when I know I'm not going to be able to remember something, it breaks me. But I don't take a lot of photos, actually. I just try to live and intake the feelings. So I'm wrapping up here. Sorry, guys. This is a longer one. I've been going a little shorter lately, so, you know. Can I hear songs in my head? No, but I am lovely at memorizing. I can memorize anything. I actually, interestingly enough, most people know this lore, but I spent 12 years singing and performing. I'm from Nashville here, and I toured, and I sang over 900 songs in my lifetime as a performer. And I could listen to a song 3 times and be ready to perform it. I don't know how that correlates exactly, but so if I have a song stuck in my head, I gotta sing it out loud or hum it or something. And the last one here on the can you rapid fire is, can I dream visually? I do dream. I dream a lot, but again, it's the exact same way I describe my thinking. It just is. I know for someone who is visualizing things constantly, they're like, what are you saying? But just as much as I said, as you don't understand, I don't understand you, queen. I don't understand you either. But yes, so I suppose, like I dream and there are things happening in my dreams, but you're just going to have to trust me on this. I'm thinking it. So anyway, I think that should close us out. But I just kind of want to say, to wrap us up, you know, there's no right or wrong way to enjoy a story or to read. And I genuinely, I mean, y'all know this. I wouldn't be here if it weren't true. I love reading more than anything. I love books and stories and the feelings in everything more than anything. And I couldn't be more grateful for the authors who put feelings and experiences on paper. It's just so special to me. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. I don't feel like it's a detriment or a deficiency in any stretch of the imagination. It just is what it is. So thank y'all for kind of a random side quest of an episode of how this impacts my reading experience. I hope you found it interesting. We'll be back to book recs next week, I'm sure. But I'll be doing a reading wrap-up actually next week, so stay tuned for that. But this episode does come out on April Fool's Day. This is not a joke episode. As like, I didn't think that through, but April 1st is a Wednesday, so I'm so sorry, queens. This is not April Fool's. This is very, very serious, very much so my life, so yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, like DM me, email me, whatever you would like. If you are looking for me online, you can find me at page.inprint, page.inprint. If you want to email me, that's page@pageimprint.com. If you are interested in author business strategy information and asynchronously learning about the author business, you can join me on Patreon at the Page Imprint Literary Studio. Patreon.com/Page Imprint Literary Studio. I think that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this. If not, we'll be back to book recs next week, but I love each and every one of you. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you in the next one.